Howdy, howdy, this is Crafty Grinding back again with an arena cutoff video for Marvel Contest of Champions. Today I'm going to cover round one results for the Thor and King Groot arenas, then do a little time trend analysis to come up with round two predictions. So first things around the round one results. This is the first time we get to see, and then for the November arenas, what the impact of the Valor currency and its availability for in the four-star feature rank rewards as well as the milestone rewards. What impact does that have across not only the four-star feature arena but the other arenas as well? And looking here for at the left for the four-star feature Thor arena, no big surprise here. His cutoff was higher than what we have seen over the last 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Really, I think since the arenas were redone after patch 12.0, this is the highest first round cutoff that we've seen for an old champ. Now, obviously, for new champs, the numbers are much higher these days. But when you have an old champ like Thor, this is the highest that we've seen. And again, I think coming into this arena, we knew that these first round cutoffs are going to be high, and probably not even the first. Both the first and the second round cutoffs will be high for the four-star feature, just given all the rank rewards you can get. But what was interesting, it was really only felt with the top 800. When you look at the first shard tier level with the top 10%, that number was very similar to other past arenas. So that 4.5 number is still a good number for folks that are just going after shards, and it hasn't risen too high, even though that you get a ton of good Valor currency as well. Now, when we look at the four-star basic arena, for a mid-tier champ, he is a pretty low performer. King Groot his cutoff came in very similar and even lower than Psylocke. Psylocke came in at 2.7. His top 10% number came in at 2.5. And the 11 to 25% number, not a big shocker here. This came right at the last milestone reward number at 1.5 million. And then we head over to Thor's three-star feature on the right. You can see that the top 10% came in at 721,000, which is a little outperforming most old traditional champs that we've seen in the three-star feature that come closer to around 700, even maybe a little under 7, around 690 or so. So this was a little bit higher than expected, but the 11 to 25% came in very similar at that 425,000. So how did the trend analysis predictions compare to this? The good news is everything was close, but just a little over, or closer to 20% versus that 10% range I like to get in with 12 million. Kind of really didn't know going in what impact Valor was going to have. So 12 million was a little bit high, as we saw that coming in at 10 million. With the top 10%, though, that tier number was kind of, I was expecting actually, I was kind of surprised that it didn't even go higher than this 4.7. So 4.5 is a good number to see, as it's still possible to get shards without going too high and really just going to that last milestone reward number at 4.5 million or 4 million, sorry, 4 million, just going an extra 500,000 over that. And then we come over to the four-star basic. I was expecting more kind of like a mid-level performance compared to other mid-interest four-star basic champs that we've seen. Something think like Angela, maybe even a little bit under Angela, and in this case wasn't came in under than Angela, not over Angela, and came in at 3.2 million with 11 to 25%, kind of where I expected as a 1.65. And lastly, when we look at the three-star Thor, you can see that those numbers were 710 and 500. Now, this again was real close to 5%. Unfortunately, it was a little bit under. So if you just played to the predictions, you didn't get Thor. And all the other cases for King Groot and Thor, since they were over, you did get the champions, but you had to put in a little extra grind time than what you really needed to. Always trying to get that range within 10%, not 20%. So in general, even though the Thor three-star feature was real close to what the actual results were, it too was kind of a meh. These are kind of like but you know what? We'll take meh versus being way off with the Thor four-star feature. Given this is the first time we're seeing the impact in the November arenas with the Valor currency now available, tied for the four-star feature. So what does this all mean moving forward to the second round? Well, we can see that when it comes to the four-star feature, all the way over the left, you can see the graphs here that we'll look at the last three: Crossbones, Abomination, and Nightcrawler. There's no matter which champ we're talking about, even a less desirable champ like Abomination, second round is always higher. Now with Crossbones and Nightcrawler, where there's some folks that still want to go after him or them, you can see that those numbers jumped pretty significantly, almost 600,000 higher between round one and round two. In the case of Abomination, though, it just went up an extra 100,000 or about 200,000 or so. So we can expect with Thor those numbers to jump probably similar to like Crossbones and Nightcrawler, where Thor may not be as desirable as a champ as those as Crossbones and Nightcrawler. One of the things that his arena has though is that extra valor, so you can expect that jump to be similar. And in terms of the top 10% and 11% tiers, you can see that those numbers pretty much stay the same. Again, this is not accounting for valor, but again, what I was saying earlier, the first round cutoff for the tier for the shard tiers didn't seem to be impacted too greatly by the inclusion of Valor. So that's a good sign there for sure. And then we come over to the middle to the 4-star basic mid interest. You can see with Psylocke, even though she came in at a low 2.7, she did have a pretty big jump, 600,000. In the second round, in the case of Angela, she too did have a jump, and this is pretty consistent for most of the mid interest type champions. Think Cable, think X23 in the past before these folks. There's always that kind of second round bump. In the case here, we see a 600 and 500,000 bump between Psylocke and Angela. I think it'll probably be closer to like that Angela 500, maybe even 400,000 bumps, since a lot of folks might be going over and maybe not going for the champ, the 4-star feature Thor, maybe just trying to do some shard farming, but at the same time also valor farming over there. But anyway, when you look at the 11 to 25% again in the graphs in the middle, you can see that there's also a tad bit of a bump between the first round and second round for that 11 to 25% tier. And lastly, when you go over to the 3-star feature graphs, you can see that similar to the 4-star feature, there's that bump between the first round and second round for the actual top 10% where you get the champ. When it comes to 11 and 25%, there's a little variance between round one and round two. But in the case of Nightcrawler, there was a big jump from round one compared to prior round one cutoffs, but then a decline because I guess that number was so high. So really anything over 500, 525-ish would seem to be a decent number around there kind of thing, or maybe even closer to 500, like 480, 490. So with all of this, these past cutoffs in the back of our mind, here are what I'm thinking for the round two predictions. Again, I think you're going to see that 600, 700,000 bump for Thor over here on the left for that 4-star feature to 10.7 million with that top 10% with that little bump that we've seen from each round going to 4.8 million. And then when it comes to Groot, again, I think you're going to see King Groot, that is, you're going to see that typical bump that we see for mid-interest champs in the second round to where you're going to see his cutoff go to 3.1 million and that 11 to 25% coming in at 1.75 million. And lastly, when we look at the 3-star feature, you can see that the top 10% is 750,000, that slight bump, and 1125 again, another bump there to 475,000, and that one might even go a little bit closer to 500,000. Now again, these predictions are for the veteran bracket, meaning your account's been open for 61 days or more, not necessarily playing for 60 days or 61 days, but if your account's been open for 61 days or more, these predictions are for you. Now, again, these are predictions based off of prior results. Again, we're still kind of learning round one, round two, since this is the first time we have Valor involved. So take these with a grain of salt. So if you really want to go with these champions, I always like to throw out a grind target, which goes a little bit higher, which takes in my own personal considerations of what else is going on, not just based off of the math and the numbers, what the data shows us. I think 12 million is a much safer number. If you really want to land in that top 800 and get Thor plus the additional Valor currency, I think because of the Valor and its impact that it's having in both and across all of these arenas, probably more so the 4-star feature and the 4-star basic, given the champs and the roster that can kind of flow between them. I think that's where you're going. I think a safer number will be 12 million. Same for that top 10%. Even though we didn't see a big impact in round one at that 4.5 number, I think some folks might push to 5 million to get that extra Valor currency as well as 4-star and 5-star shards. We jump over to the 4-star basic King Groot. You can see the top 10%. I think if you really want to, it probably won't be too often with the predictions. I think those are pretty solid from each of the mid-tier past arena. So I think a 3.3 number will be sufficient there, and a 1.8 for the 11 to 25%. tier. And lastly, over on the right, when we think about the 3-star feature, there's always that bump that we like to see. So I like to, I think 790 will make sure, if you even want to go 800,000 and make sure you get Thor, you can do that there with 11 to 25%, again, around 500 to 525, and you should be fine there. And again, these grind targets are similar to these predictions, to where they're for folks whose accounts have been open for 20, or 61 days or more. If you are playing a newer account that's been open for 1 to 30 days, these beginner bracket numbers will be relevant for you. Again, these aren't as data based as the previous veteran bracket numbers, just because there's just not a ton of data. I can continue to collect a lot, not only from my personal experience a month or two ago, but also based on the input from you, the community. But again, I don't have enough historical data to really put up a good trend analysis for this. These are just kind of decent ranges to kind of keep in mind if you're in the beginners bracket, and also the intermediate bracket, which means your account's been open for 31 to 60 days. So if you're a beginners bracket, 3-star features roughly around that 245,000, the 4-star basic around 1 million, and the 4-star feature around a million as well. And then for the intermediate bracket, for a 3-star feature, an old champion like Thor, 650 typically scores him. With 4-star basic, with a King Groot type champ, 1.4 million should work, maybe even closer, between 1.2, maybe even 1 million. 1 million to 1.4 should be fine, but probably with 1 million based off of where a lot of folks will be focused on that 4-star feature. So that 1.2 million now will be really interesting for folks that are playing on accounts that are in the intermediate and beginner. If you could provide me your results like you've typically doing, a lot of folks, in the comment section, I'd really appreciate it, because I'd love to see how Valor is impacting the intermediate and beginner brackets as well. So anyway, these are my thoughts for the round two predictions, as well as what happened in round one. Would love to hear your thoughts, and if you have any questions, any builds on these predictions or the grind targets, please throw them down in the comment sections, and we can discuss them there. And if you like this video, would really appreciate you hitting that thumbs up button. If you like this video and others that I have on the channel, would really appreciate a subscribe. Other than that, thanks a lot for stopping by, and have a great day.